In the dusty frontier town of Eldorado Creek, where the sun baked the earth into cracked clay and the wind whispered secrets through the saloons, lived a man named Harlan Blackwood, a lone rancher whose life was as rugged as the canyons he called home. Harlan was a towering figure, broad-shouldered and weathered by years under the relentless Texas sky, his face etched with lines from squinting at horizons and scars from barroom brawls long forgotten. He owned a sprawling ranch on the outskirts, a place of endless pastures and lonely nights, where cattle roamed free and the only company was the echo of his own boots on the wooden porch. Harlan wasn't much for words, he preferred the silence of the stars to the chatter of townsfolk, but on this fateful evening in 1885, boredom and a pocket full of silver drew him into the Golden Nugget Saloon for a game of poker. The air inside was thick with cigar smoke and the stench of whiskey, laughter erupting from grizzled miners and sharp-eyed gamblers clustered around felt-topped tables. Harlan slid into a seat at the high-stakes game, his piercing blue eyes scanning the players, a sly banker from San Francisco, a bearded prospector down on his luck, and a mysterious trader named Li Wei, a Chinese immigrant with a reputation for shady dealings in the opium dens of Chinatown. Li Wei's face was inscrutable, his silk vest hiding a heart as cold as the Pacific depths from which he'd sailed, and tonight he was desperate, his fortunes waning after a string of bad trades. As the cards were dealt, the stakes climbed higher, gold nuggets, deeds to land, even prized horses, but when Li Wei's hand faltered on a bluff gone wrong, he slammed down his final offer, a young Chinese girl he'd acquired through nefarious means, bound by debts from her family's passage to America. She's worthless, Li Wei sneered, his accent thick, a scrawny thing from the slums of Shanghai, good for nothing but scrubbing floors and warming beds if you're desperate. The room fell silent, eyes darting to the corner where the girl huddled, her name Mei Ling, barely 19, her ebony hair tied in a simple braid, her almond eyes downcast in shame, clad in a tattered cheongsam that spoke of faded elegance. She was slender, almost fragile, her skin porcelain against the grime of the saloon, and though she understood little English, the weight of her fate pressed upon her like chains. Harlan, who had been nursing his whiskey with disinterest, felt a flicker in his chest, a rare spark of compassion amid his hardened soul. He'd seen too much cruelty in the West, natives driven from lands, women traded like cattle, dreams shattered by greed. With a steady hand, he revealed his full house, kings over aces, and claimed the pot. "I'll take the girl," he growled, his voice low and commanding, as Li Wei cursed in Mandarin and stormed out into the night. The saloon erupted in murmurs, but Harlan paid no mind. He approached Mei Ling gently, extending a calloused hand. "Come with me, darlin'," he said softly, though she flinched at first, her eyes wide with fear. Outside, under the moonlit sky, he helped her onto his horse, wrapping his coat around her shivering form, and they rode in silence to his ranch, the clip-clop of hooves the only sound breaking the vast emptiness. As they arrived at the modest cabin, nestled among cottonwoods by a bubbling creek, Harlan lit a lantern, revealing a home sparse but clean. A stone fireplace, a wooden table laden with simple fare, and a bed draped in quilts his late mother had sewn. Mei Ling stood hesitantly in the doorway, expecting the worst. After all, she'd been passed from ship captains to merchants, always as property, never as a person. But Harlan surprised her. Instead of demands, he prepared a warm bath in a tin tub by the fire, fetching fresh water from the well and adding dried lavender from his garden, a small luxury he kept for rare moments of solace. "You ain't my slave," he muttered, his cheeks flushing under his stubble as he handed her a clean towel and one of his oversized shirts. "You're free here. Eat, rest, and if you want to leave come mornin', I'll give you coin for the stagecoach." Mei Ling, piecing together his words with gestures, nodded tentatively, her heart pounding. As she soaked in the water, the first real bath in months, tears mingled with the steam, tears of relief, confusion, and a budding hope. Harlan busied himself outside, tending to the horses, giving her space, his mind racing with thoughts he hadn't entertained since his wife's passing 5 years prior from fever. Sarah had been his queen, a fiery redhead who'd turned his wild heart tame, and her loss had left him a shell, vowing never to love again. Yet here was this girl, exotic and broken, stirring something protective in him. The next morning, Mei Ling awoke to the aroma of sizzling bacon and fresh coffee. Harlan had risen at dawn, as always, milking the cows and gathering eggs from the henhouse. He set a plate before her, flapjacks drizzled with honey from his beehives, eggs scrambled with herbs, and a mug of tea he'd brewed from leaves he'd traded for in town, guessing at her preferences. "Eat up," he said with a gruff smile, sitting across from her. Mei Ling tasted the food cautiously, then ravenously, her eyes lighting up. It was the kindest meal she'd known since leaving China. Over the days that followed, Harlan treated her not as a prize won in folly, but as a guest of honor. He showed her the ranch, the vast fields where longhorns grazed, the orchard heavy with apples, the stable where his prized stallion, Thunder, nickered greetings. He taught her to ride, patiently guiding her hands on the reins, his touch firm yet gentle, laughing when she wobbled but never mocking. Mei Ling, in turn, began to open up, sharing fragments of her story through broken English and drawings in the dirt. Her village destroyed by floods, her parents selling her to pay debts, the harrowing voyage across the sea where she endured hunger and leers from sailors. Harlan listened intently, his jaw clenching at the injustices, vowing silently to shield her from further harm. He bought her fabrics from the general store, silks in vibrant reds and golds that reminded her of home, and hired a seamstress to fashion dresses that blended Eastern grace with Western practicality. Nights were spent by the fire, where he'd read aloud from tattered books, tales of adventure by Mark Twain, or play his harmonica, melodies that danced like fireflies. Mei Ling, emboldened, sang songs from her homeland, her voice a lilting soprano that filled the cabin with ethereal beauty, melting Harlan's reservations. One evening, as a thunderstorm raged outside, lightning cracking the sky like whips, Mei Ling confessed her fears. "I'm worthless," she whispered, echoing Li Wei's cruel words. Harlan knelt before her, taking her hands in his. "No, Mei," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "you're a queen. Stronger than any storm, more precious than gold. You've brought light back to this old ranch." Their eyes met, and in that moment, barriers crumbled. He kissed her forehead tenderly, then her lips, a kiss born of mutual respect and burgeoning love. What followed was a night of passion, not conquest, but connection, Harlan worshipping her body with reverence, exploring every curve as if she were fragile porcelain, while Mei Ling discovered agency in her desires, her nails tracing his scars, her moans harmonizing with the rain. Come dawn, they lay entwined, the storm passed, and Harlan whispered promises, to build her a garden of exotic flowers, to teach her the stars' names, to make her his partner in all things. But peace was fleeting, word spread of the poker win, and Li Wei, bitter and vengeful, rallied a gang of outlaws to reclaim what he saw as his. They rode to the ranch under cover of night, torches blazing, guns drawn. Harlan, alerted by Thunder's whinny, grabbed his rifle, positioning Mei Ling safely inside with a pistol he'd taught her to use. "Stay strong, my queen," he urged, before stepping out to face them. Gunfire erupted, bullets whizzing like angry hornets, Harlan dropping two assailants with precise shots honed from years of defending his land. Li Wei charged, knife gleaming, but Mei Ling, summoning courage, burst from the door and fired, wounding him in the leg. The outlaws scattered, defeated, and as Harlan bound Li Wei for the sheriff, he looked at Mei Ling with pride. "You saved us," he said, pulling her close. In the aftermath, the town hailed them as heroes, but Harlan cared little for acclaim, his world was Mei Ling. He proposed under the apple tree, crafting a ring from gold he'd panned himself, and she accepted with tears of joy. Their wedding was simple, attended by ranch hands and a few friends, Mei Ling radiant in a gown of silken lace. Together, they transformed the ranch. Mei Ling introduced spices from her culture, turning meals into feasts, and planted tea bushes that thrived in the soil. Children came, 2 boys with Harlan's strength and Mei Ling's grace, and a girl who sang like her mother. Years rolled by, the ranch prospering, but Harlan never forgot that fateful poker game. On their anniversaries, he'd recount the tale, always ending with, "I won more than a game that night, I won a queen." Mei Ling, now fluent and confident, would smile and add, "And I found a king who saw my worth." Their love became legend in El Dorado Creek, a testament to redemption and kindness in a lawless land. As the sun set on their golden years, Harlan and Mei Ling sat on the porch, hands intertwined, watching their grandchildren play, knowing that from a worthless wager bloomed an empire of the heart. And so, dear reader, if this tale of unlikely love and triumph has captured your imagination, igniting sparks of hope and adventure in your soul, then don't miss out on more such enchanting stories. Subscribe to our channel today for weekly doses of riveting narratives that transport you to worlds of wonder, where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and every subscription helps us craft even more magic just for you.